Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of the Well Done Way podcast. My name is Colby Fasella, and if you're an entrepreneur like me, you're not going to want to miss this episode along with the following two episodes because we're going to talk about what I believe to be the three foundations of success in both life and business, and that is stewardship, strategy, and scale. We're going to talk about stewardship is and what that looks like in our lives and businesses today. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the Well Done Way. What's it all about? Well, the Well Done Way is born out of a parable. And if you don't know what a parable is like a story or a fable that we learned when we were kids that has an underlying meaning or message behind it. So the parable of the talents is what this is. And a talent is maybe not what you're thinking, like something that's given to you that you're good at, but a talent is just anything that's given to you that you are entrusted with. In the story, these three men are left behind something from a business owner to be entrusted with and to take care of while the business owner was gone on a journey. Now, all of us are on a journey in our own lives, and we're all trying to achieve different levels of success, and we all set these levels of success in our own minds. I believe we all end up at the same place. We all end up at the gates of heaven, and God is going to ask us at the end of our lives, why should I let you in? And whether you believe in God or not, I think we can all agree that if God does exist, we want him to congratulate us on the success that we had on earth. We want him to tell us, well done. We want him to tell us, good job. And so we're going to look at how do we get that result? How do we achieve the success that we need in this life in order to get that feedback from God, in order to get that validation from God, in order to let us in to heaven? And stewardship is doing the things on this earth and being a good steward, being entrusted with something that you take care of in order to get that result. And we're going to look at a really good example of what a good steward looks like in the story of Solomon. And Solomon was given this responsibility by his father David to rebuild the temple of Jerusalem. And Solomon took this very seriously. If you read through the chapter, you can tell that he spared no expense. I mean, this guy, it says he brought cedars from Lebanon, gold from all over the world, and he compiled this list of luxury materials in order to follow God's plan and rebuild this temple. And he employed over 190,000 workers. And to put that in perspective, Apple, the company today, only has 160,000 employees. So over this 7-year span, Solomon was rebuilding this temple and pouring all that he had into this project. And it's kind of convicting because in our lives today, we pour all of our time and energy on things that benefit ourselves. But when it's time to give back, we give the bottom 10% and we give the leftovers. I mean, Solomon didn't root around in his back shed and just compile all these junk materials and just throw the temple up in a couple days. This was a 7-year planned out project that required lots of money, lots of time, and lots of manpower to be able to accomplish. And you can tell by reading the scriptures that his father David had that same desire. And in chapter 8 of 1 Kings verse 18, it says, "But the Lord said to my father David, since your heart was set on building a temple for my name, you have done well to have this desire." And so we see that even though David didn't have this physical effort to rebuild the temple, just because he had the desire was enough for God to tell him, well done. And in our lives today, we may not ever physically see the rebuilding of the temple, in quotes. And what that means is we might not ever achieve the desire, which if you're a Christian, it should be to be like Christ. None of us can do that. None of us can achieve the standard that Christ set for us. But if we have the desire and we work towards that and we place our lives in God's hands, that is going to be enough for him to tell us, well done. So why are you building your temple? Is it for fame? Is it for leisure? Is it for comfort? Is it for wealth? And if your temple looks like any of those things, if it looks like you building all of these things in life, your businesses, your friendships for yourself, what's God going to tell you at the end of the road? Is God going to let you know that you did a good job? Is he going to tell you well done? Or is it going to turn out a lot differently for you? And it's really good to ask yourself these questions. And a question that you can be asking yourself is, what are you banking on in your life today? And then also, what are you banking on if your life ended today? And for a lot of us, maybe the question is actually answered very well. Maybe that question is answered with, I'm banking on the fact that Jesus is my Savior when I die. But are you really putting that practice in your life today? Are the answers for those two questions the same, or are the answers different? And a lot of us have this great answer, but we don't put in practice in our day-to-day lives the things that we should. We don't really steward this responsibility and this goal in our day-to-day and our month-to-month and even year-to-year life. So we're going to look at what these three men through this parable did with what they were given. And actually, there's three different results. And we're going to study that and learn how we can really apply that to our lives and our businesses today. So starting in chapter 25, verse 14, it says, "For it is like a man about to go on a journey. He called his own servants." So first what we see, as he said, he's called his own servants. In order to be called, in order to be a leader, you first have to serve. You have to put in the work. You have to be ready. You have to be in the right place so that you're ready when these responsibilities are going to come your way. And that's really the first step in building a business or building a life, is just really submitting yourself under the authority of other people and serving and committing yourself to adding value to others before you even expect any kind of value in return. Next, it says he entrusted his possessions to them. He trusted his possessions to them. And we have to recognize that everything that we have in this life is not as a result of our work. In 1 Corinthians 6:19, it says, "Our bodies are not our own. You were bought at a price, therefore glorify God with your body." And a lot of us might say that we agree with that. You might say, "Colby, well, I don't go partying every weekend. I don't smoke or get drunk or any of that stuff." And that's great. But would you replace that word with business? Would you say, my business is not my own? My friends are not my own. My house is not my own. My money is not my own. And I think a lot of people have a harder time with some of those things, the things they really truly strive for and work at, than just saying my body. Because like we've all heard that before. We've all heard that verse before if you're in the church space or the Christian space. But would you replace that word with this thing or this business that you've been working hard at your whole life? Or maybe it's sports. You've been working hard at becoming a great basketball player, football player, golfer, whatever that is. Are you willing to give that up? Are you willing to say, hey, this is not my own? That's what stewardship starts at. It's recognizing that the things you were given, the talents that you were given, the abilities, the possessions, they're not your own. And so that's really the second step. It's first putting yourself in that servant position, and then also recognizing that anything that you do get as a result isn't your own. And then next, if we continue to verse 15, it says, "To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another 1 talent." And as we talked about earlier, a talent in this case would just be kind of a form of currency. So somebody got 5, somebody got 2, and somebody got 1. But then it says, depending on each one's ability. I hear it all the time that I want to be a millionaire. I want to have my own business one day. I want to get good grades on a test, or whatever that might be for you, whatever you're striving towards. Well, start putting that into practice today. If you want to be a millionaire, start acting like a millionaire would today. If you want to be a good friend, start acting like one today. And if you want to have a great business, start putting these things into practice. Start being a good steward. Then you strategize, as we're going to talk about in our next, and then ultimately scale. And we want to put all these things into practice today. We don't want to wait until tomorrow. There's always going to be an excuse. But if you talk to any professional athlete or even businessman, they're going to tell you that you can't get to the top without first starting at the bottom. And it really starts with, like we talked about, just submitting yourself in a servant role and being ready. And at the end of the day, accept the results. I think it's really funny when we're kids, we have this idea, maybe we're praying for a good grade on a test, but not a lot of us would pray that we get the result that we studied for. And I think that needs to be a mindset shift in the way we think about building our lives and our businesses is that we're not just going to wake up one day after praying and magically have a great life and have great relationships and have a great business, but we need to be putting in the work in our daily lives really to be able to achieve that result at their end. And that really should be all of our prayers. Like, help me get the grade that I studied for. Help me build the business that I worked hard for and that God blesses off against. And that's what stewardship is, guys. That is what stewardship is. It's really recognizing that you need to be a servant, then recognizing that everything you have is your own, and then really just diving in and putting in the work, putting these talents to work. And next time we're going to look about the strategy. We're going to look at the strategy to put in place in order to maximize the growth and putting these things into place by looking at this parable and learning from this example of these three men that did three different things in order to grow the wealth of the master that left behind something for them to take care of that entrusted it to them. So today you learned a lot about what stewardship is, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week as we talk about strategy and building our lives and our businesses.